Hi, everyone. This is Light a Joint with Ida. I am Ida Pearlie, and I have with me Allison Ireton from
Hi.
Bloom City. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me over. And
Yeah.
this is I know this is your office, but it's a really cool little house you have here.
Yeah. It's a great space. It's right next door to Bloom, our store in Ann Arbor. And it's a cute little Victorian house. So lots of creaks and lots of old touches, but real quaint and real cozy.
Yeah. It's nice here.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen you since the summer annual.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great weather.
This is like what you've come every year so far.
Every year but last year. I did miss last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of some COVID stuff, but
it happens.
Yes.
But at least you came this year.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's just, I know it's something that everyone looks forward to every year. And then like once it's over, it's like, okay, we can't wait to get back there.
Yeah. It's a nice laid back way to connect with a lot of the people who are going through the same, ups and downs in this industry that we all go through.
Right.
I think.
Right.
At least I think we're all going through them.
Yeah. In one way, shape, or another.
Yes.
We can all relate to each other.
Yeah.
So you own Bloom City.
Well, I'm general counsel for Bloom City Club.
Okay.
I also founded it way back when we were in the unregulated market. I like to refer to it, the gray market, however people want to refer to that. So yeah, real proud of that. We've been doing this. We just celebrated our 7th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So we opened in August of 2015.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got fully licensed in September of 2018.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit. I'm gonna roll us a joint here.
Yeah, for sure. That's the name of the podcast.
It is.
Right?
Yes. I am smoking, or we're gonna be smoking.
Sure.
Glorious candy cake.
Candy cake.
Candy cake.
There's a million names.
I
I can't keep up. When we first opened and we didn't have regulations, of course, we had caregivers. Like, we knew all the caregivers. They would come into the store with their wares and, sit down with you and you'd smell it, you'd look at it, you'd talk about it. I have to say that's probably the one thing that, anyone who's been doing this for a while must miss about it, because you talk to a salesperson on the phone or you look on LeafLink and you just get what you get.
Exactly.
It comes in a bag and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't what I ordered. So yeah, it's a little different.
We were talking about that before the show. So you used to do lobbying as well. That's initially where we first met.
Yes. So I remember seeing you. If you got into this industry back before the MMFLA, and of course, way before the MRDMA.
Right.
And if you know what I mean by those, then congrats.
You're an OG.
Yes, then you're an OG. Then, you had to do your part to get it legalized.
Right.
And, when I got into this industry, people like Robin Schneider and Mark Passerini would, say, come on, Allison, it's your duty. You got to go to Lansing. You got to go to these events. And I was happy to do it. And I would always see you there with your daughter and making a difference and helping convince the legislature to pass the MMFLA first.
Right.
And it almost happened in 2015, and then it didn't. And that was like getting the rug ripped out from under, and I'm an attorney, and I was like, okay, we're only going to be illegal for a few months, from August through December. And then it was supposed to pass in December. And then it was like, oh no, plan B. So.
Yeah, and it was so disheartening. It was it was like, what's the word? Just crushing.
Yeah, it was
soul crushing.
Unexpected too. And it was the first time I really remember being that involved in something so political that directly affected my life.
Mm-hmm.
That I felt that I really had a say in or some sort of role in. And then when it didn't pass, I felt very betrayed in a way by the legislature, because there was some weird, I don't know, like, I don't want to say back alley dealings. I think I'm thinking too much about the Roe v. Wade decision. But, you know, there was some weird nefarious things going on behind the scene.
Right.
So, you know, and then all of a sudden it looked like it was going to pass and then it didn't. And everybody had their theories on why. But, you know, getting involved in the political process through this, you know, the legalization of cannabis in Michigan was very instructive and worthwhile and meaningful. And, you know, it made this whole journey really satisfying and gratifying and worthwhile. You know, much more than just like opening a business and hanging a shingle.
Right.
You know, it just really had to work for it and become invested in the people and the process. It was great.
Well, and thank you for everything that you have done and you know, for all of your hard work too. I mean, because it's not just one, it's many of us, you know, and we all contribute to it. And and you did your part. Yeah. So thank you.
It was great. No, I mean, everybody did. You know, I was just one of many. Like
right. But still, I mean, you're out there making a difference, and there are a lot of people who just sit at home and watch others make the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
There were sitting on the sidelines.
Plenty. Oh yeah.
I mean, and that happens in life too.
Right.
You know, a lot of people sit at home like, I wish I had this. I wish I had that. Sometimes you just have to go out and do it, you know. And there were a lot of people that told us what we needed to do. You know, people like you and people like Robin and Mark, and you know, it was great. Yeah. You guys made it easier by your example. So
So where are you from originally? Because where did you grow up?
Oh, so I grew up outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and you know, they have medical now in Pennsylvania, and a lot of my sisters have become interested in what's going on in Pennsylvania. They have a very different system. It's limited licensing there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Okay. And they break it down by congressional districts. So they allow like however many, you know, people are in a certain district, that's how many, you know, dispensaries are allowed in a certain area. But they all still pretty much live on the East Coast. I'm the only Midwesterner, I guess, in my family at this point. So I came out here in 2003.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So how were you raised? Were you raised with cannabis? Like how was cannabis in your household?
Yeah, it was interesting. So I'm one of 5 girls, and Catholic school, you know, Catholic girls school for 16 years, you know, kindergarten, grade school, high school. I went to a, you know, Jesuit college too, and, you know, very religious household, very conservative Catholic, Republican household. And it's interesting because my one older sister had a reputation of being like the stoner in the family. You know, our last name is Ireton, and her nickname was Meg Eye because her eyes were always like bloodshot, you know, things like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, you know, it was in the 80s when it was okay to party and drink. And, you know, in the 80s, like cocaine was sort of popular, and like that was all, you know, fine, I guess.
Right.
But like there was something about, you know, pot that, you know, it was just illegal. So, you know, it was sort of not demonized, but, you know, there was just nothing okay about it. But, you know, I don't know. You know, I grew up in a culture where alcohol was very much part of the party scene, and, you know, parents, you know, were frequently drinking and partying, and, you know, that was okay.
Yeah.
You know, alcohol was very, you know, Irish Catholic family too. There was a lot of alcoholism in my family, and, you know,
it's really interesting how much more accepted alcohol is, and literally how it's in every household. And the one thing that no one ever talks about is, you want to talk about a gateway drug? Oh,
I know.
How old are kids when they first start drinking? 9, 10, 11 sometimes. I mean, come on, you know? And it's like, and so it's so interesting, you know, how we forget, you know, and when we were younger, and how we forget, you know, like what we wanted to try, and my kids will never do that. And it's like, who the fuck do you think your kids are? Like, get over yourself.
I mean, I was like the 4th of 5. So having older siblings, and also having parents that, you know, are done being the protective parents. You know, there was alcohol everywhere. And, you know, I drank at a young age. And, you know, even fast forwarding to collecting signatures for the MMFLA at like tailgating events. Like I don't drink anymore, just because drinking would kill me. You know, like I'm of the genes in my family that I can't partake of alcohol anymore. It killed my father. So,
I'm sorry to hear that.
well, this was 20 some odd years ago. He died in his 50s. And, you know, there's several people in my family that have been sober for, you know, double digits, numbers of years. So, you know, and it is hereditary. So, you know, I was going around, the Michigan tailgate, you know, and everybody's drinking. I mean, you know, it's like alcohol is everywhere at a Michigan tailgate.
Yes.
Asking people to sign a petition to legalize cannabis. And for the most part, everybody was like, sure, no problem. It's just, you know, where do they live is the biggest issue, making sure they sign the right petition. But occasionally you get, you know, like the person who's like, well, I don't know about that. And, you know, they're drunk or they've got, you know, a cooler overflowing with alcohol.
Exactly.
And just like, it just seems a little hypocritical.
Perspective is a really funny thing. And it's really funny how, I'm better than you are because I don't do that mentality that we all have. And, and it's understanding, like, once you're aware of it, like, check myself.
And it is just it's the legal status of it. I mean, that is all it is, because I had to get over that myself. I mean, that, you know, when I first, as an attorney, I was bored doing what I was doing and I wanted to do something else. So I volunteered. Washtenaw County has a program where any attorney can volunteer for the public defender's office.
Oh.
So I started doing that in 2012.
So like pro bono work.
Exactly. It is pro bono, so you don't get paid. And I just took misdemeanor cases. I didn't have enough skill to do, you know, felonies, like anything crazy. But doing misdemeanors, a lot of it was marijuana possession cases. And a lot of them were, you know, alcohol, minor possession cases. But the marijuana possession cases were ridiculous. You know, you end up, the people with money go in front of the judge, they pay their fine, they leave, you know, the slap on the wrist, the lecture, and then they leave.
Right.
The people without money I would represent, and they would get the fine. And they don't have the money to pay the fine, or else they wouldn't need a public defender.
It's so not fair.
And then because they don't have the money to pay the fine, 90 days later or 60 days later, they're actually back in court for failure to pay court fines and costs. And then, you know, 120 days later, they're back and they're going to jail.
Right.
So now they're going to jail, not for possession of cannabis, but for failure to pay court fines and costs.
You know, and it's really interesting because I am of the general population who does not understand our system and how it works. And it's really disgusting.
It is.
It's
ridiculous.
Flat out disgusting because if again, like you said, if you don't have the money, you're in the system and you're screwed.
Oh, you are.
You can't get a job because you have all these classes that you're supposed to be going to. You have all these fines you're supposed to be paying that keep racking up. And it's just, it's a no-win situation. And it's like, how do we expect change when we're not creating that change?
Yeah. And, you know, clients get comments like, well, you could afford to get those tattoos. Like, you paid for those tattoos. You can find money to pay for, you know, $500 of court fines and
we're
costs.
talking about tattoos that are like, what, 70, 120 bucks,
Yeah.
150 bucks that
And they might have been
add on
free.
to. I mean,
who knows?
Judging.
It's judging.
Yes.
Again, it's judging. It's making an assumption. And it's, but, you know, and that's how, you know, money in this country, you know, will solve those problems for you. And that is how you end up in jail for a misdemeanor pot violation. And, you know, I'm just so happy that at least in Washtenaw County, we have Eli Savitt as a prosecutor who is not going to prosecute those crimes. Well, crimes, I don't even want to say that.
Right.
But, you know,
he's decriminalized.
He's decriminalized everything,
which is phenomenal.
Thank God.
Yes, and hopefully it's going to be sweeping across Michigan and the nation. So you ready to light up?
Oh, sure.
Road you one yourself.
All righty.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yes. The non-alcoholic cheers.
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, ma'am. So I thought I'd put your name down there. It looks like my name came up.
Oh.
I don't understand.
Well, that's
how this thing
better.
Works.
I'd rather have your name there.
This is your podcast.
this is my first podcast. So.
Is it really?
Yes, this is my very first.
Well, thank you for.
I think I was on the radio once when I was in a play when I was in like 3rd grade.
Okay.
So, yes, it's been a while.
Yeah. When I first started doing these, I was so nervous and anxious because, I do them for the MICIA and we're not political. And we do have to be really careful what we say.
Yes, I'm sure.
And, unfortunately, the person I was with at the time, just my anxiety was way up here.
Okay.
And as soon as, he stopped doing the podcast, I know how to do this. Like I can relax and talk and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, getting over this, we're just sitting here having a conversation.
There you go. Yeah. And, I've done some of the, like more like business lecture things at events like Benzinga or, I'm trying to think of some others, but yeah, this is very nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to just chat.
It is. And light a joint.
Yeah,
on social media.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Philadelphia.
Yes.
How was cannabis? So your sister was the older one. She was kind of known as the bad girl.
Yep.
You didn't really experiment with it?
No, alcohol was more my thing.
Okay.
In high school.
Okay.
I remember, the stoners used to go to Valley Forge Park, blend history with drug use, but Valley Forge Park was the place where everybody would go kind of hang out. And, I think I tried it when I was in high school and that was about it.
Okay.
It was like the mid 80s.
Right.
Kind of old.
I'm just as old, so don't worry.
There you go.
Usually I'm the oldest one in our group, so.
Yeah, I'm used to it now. So.
Right.
Yeah, no, I didn't have much, it's like the cannabis really wasn't in my radar until I started working, at the public defender's office in 2012, 2013. And I did have this one judge kind of flip out on a police officer because there was a young man in his court. He was in there for a roach on the floor of a vehicle.
Oh my goodness.
And that was his possession. And the judge, it was right before lunch. So you don't like judges right before lunch because they're a little hangry. But he's like, of course there was, a roach on the floor of his Jeep. He was on his way to work. And he was playing his music too loud. So they pulled him over like as a pretext because his music was too loud, knowing that they'd probably find something in the vehicle. And they're like, and the judge was yelling at the police officer, like he probably shares that car with like 5 other people. He was on his way to work. You probably missed work that day. He's like, yes, Your Honor, I did. He's like, you're probably missing work today, aren't you? And he's like, yes, Your Honor, I am. He's like, would you please stop bothering these people for like a roach? And I was really impressed with the judge. Like he really got upset. This was in Ypsi, Judge Tabby. And I think he's retiring this year. I'm not sure.
Well, darn.
I know. This was like 10 years ago. And I was he made my job very easy.
It sounds like a good one.
They dismissed the charges, but, that's when I got, sort of realized, from a social justice standpoint, what was going on. But I was not really acquainted with the medicinal benefits other than, what I heard passively. But as I was doing that, I was trying to figure out where my law practice was going. And through a business networking group, I was introduced to Dory Edwards, and a lot of people on this podcast probably know Dory.
Hi, Dory.
And she's the OG in especially Washtenaw County or Ann Arbor marijuana, and I helped her out with a different lawyer-client privilege issue that I'm not going to talk about. And as we talked, it came up that she had what she considered, alternative income and, from caregiving activities. And as we talked about that, she really educated me on, what caregivers did and the medicinal benefits of cannabis. And, of course, then I realized that so many people that I didn't realize were using cannabis were using cannabis. it's kind of like once you buy a certain type of car, then you see that car everywhere. once you know somebody who's using cannabis, and then you start meeting people, you're like, oh my God, oh my gosh. Like then it's like everybody,
It's like my whole friend group
just
open wide up.
There it goes. So that was amazing. And, just hooking up with Dory, my partner Craig and I owned a building that his son was a mechanic in. It was an old Volkswagen mechanic repair shop on Miller Avenue, which is now the site of Bloom.
Oh.
And Dory, because she had been a part of all the legalization meetings, the zoning and the planning that was going on in Ann Arbor in 2010 and 11, before my attention was focused on cannabis at all, because she had been a part of that, she knew that the location where Bloom is today was actually in a place that could be licensed.
Oh, wow.
And, so she and I then endeavored to, turn Bloom into what it is today. So,
congratulations.
Dory is a big part of that. That wouldn't have happened without her input, her, influence, and she's obviously been in this industry since the beginning.
That's what I love about this industry, because we are all friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we all know each other, and we generally want the best for each other.
Yeah.
A
lot of the OGs are still around. Yeah.
True,
I mean, there's a lot of new people.
There is a lot of new
probably will never meet, but
yeah.
You see them at conferences.
You do, but
Yes.
there's a little difference there too.
They're fine. There's room for everybody.
There is.
Yes.
That's the thing, it's. And I've said this before, but coming from the special needs community,
yes.
and don't get me wrong, that community is very welcoming, but it's small and it's limited to just the special needs community. With the cannabis community, it's a whole nother experience, and it's like family.
Sure.
And I really get to meet, good quality, like-minded people, and I love calling you my friend.
It does feel good. I mean, MICIA as a trade organization, Robin was so much a part of, getting Bloom started, just, learning from her about the industry, the legal side of the industry. There were so many hurdles in the beginning about how the legalization was going to happen. Mark Passerini, who I mentioned earlier, rather than being, a competitor who was, less than a mile down the street from us, was a real, advocate. Back in the day, Ann Arbor had its own little cannabis guild where people, shared, the meetings were more about staying out of jail. Like, are there any informants that are applying for jobs? And what can we do to organize as a group to help further the cause of legalization? And, what politicians should we be supporting? And, it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of camaraderie that, is a little lacking.
Right.
But the purpose has changed, the mission back then was to get legalization passed. And now that has happened, it's the priorities have shifted.
The dynamics have changed, and now it's legal.
Time
and now it's regulated.
A lot of time has passed.
Right.
So
So what led you to want to go into law in the first place? Was that something that you knew you wanted to do, or a passion?
It's funny, I guess my mom always, as a kid, I've always been somebody who rationalizes a lot. Like, I always have an excuse. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but one thing I do, I like to solve problems.
Okay.
Like, I really, whenever there's a problem, I feel like there's got to be a way to fix it,
Right.
And I'm better at solving other people's problems than my own, for sure. I think that's true of everybody.
Yeah.
Well,
we were saying it's easier to look on the outside, or from the outside.
From the outside, it's easier to see the dynamics that are creating the problem.
Right.
But, so I feel like there's, I like to solve problems. So then I wasn't a traditional law student. I went to law school in my mid-30s. And it was at a time in my life where I was in a career as a technical writer. I was in technical writing for software. And believe me, that's as exciting as it sounds. It's really not great.
How did you get into that? Was that your career then?
Well, my undergrad was accounting, and then I did that until my senior year of college, and then I switched, which, once you've done 3 years, then I have to go for 2 more to do anything else.
Right.
I switched to information sciences, so that's why I ended up in technical writing for software.
Okay.
But I worked at a payroll company, and they wanted to move me to Rochester, New York, and I was
From
it's too much snow.
Pennsylvania.
No, this was when I was living in Maine.
Maine,
actually.
okay,
I was living in Maine at the time, and I just didn't want to live in Rochester, New York. So
That doesn't really sound fun
no.
to me.
No, I mean, it's too much snow for me. I mean, I know Maine sounds like they get a lot of snow, but like Rochester gets like double the amount of snow that Maine gets. It's like the lake effect. It's insane. So I decided, my mom always argued that I should be a lawyer because I should put that rationalization to good use. I mean, and this is from like the time I was 6. So it's always been one of those things, how your parents influence you, and it just sticks in the back of your brain and makes you do crazy things. So I just thought, I'm gonna take the plunge and go to law school, and so I did. And when I got out, I worked at a law firm in Detroit, and I just
so law brought you to Michigan.
Yes.
Okay.
And I actually went to a super conservative Catholic law school that's no longer here. It's in its own little Catholic enclave in Naples. It was called Ave Maria School of Law.
Oh.
And which again, it kind of makes me laugh that I'm, kind of very publicly doing cannabis, because I know it would drive, at least the owner of that law school nuts. He was the billionaire Tom Monahan that owned Domino's Pizza. It was his little project.
Right.
But I had a full ride. I had a full scholarship, and I didn't want to be worrying about tuition.
Hey,
when you're like 34 and just
exactly
deciding to take on, $100,000 worth of debt or not.
Why not?
I know.
Yeah, I mean, good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations
So
on that. That's a small feat in itself. Goodness.
Well, and then I wouldn't have been in Michigan, and
right.
I love it here.
Right.
Everything
happens for a reason.
Everything does happen for a reason. I've been here since 2003. And now this is the longest I've ever lived in one state, because I think I moved out of Pennsylvania when I was 18, when I went to college, and that was in Maryland, and I lived in Maine. So yeah, this is the longest I've lived in any one particular state for any length of time. So, now Michigan's my home.
Putting down your roots.
Yes. So now it's been 20 years that I've been here.
Well, we're happy to have you here.
I love it. And I've been in Ann Arbor the whole time. And the state's gorgeous. In fact, it reminds me so much of Maine. It's like Maine with fresh water instead of salt water. Literally.
Okay, so we have the same landscape.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Even
the same like names of the towns, like Lewiston and Auburn and Presque Isle. I mean, it's all the same. It's like it's crazy, and everything up in like Lake Superior reminds me of like Acadia National Park. It's amazing how similar the two states are.
Okay.
Yeah, you could take pictures in Pictured Rocks and pictures at Acadia, and
it's hard to tell.
Pictured Rocks is beautiful. I mean, more beautiful than Acadia.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now I have to go to Maine.
Yeah. No, you just go north.
Well, I do kind of like that better.
I think it's prettier.
I'm finding this like I'm getting older. Like I drive all over Michigan, but it's like to actually leave the state, it's like, no, thank you.
No, I mean, I don't know that there are many states that are any, I've been to Florida, up and down the East Coast, and I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a state that's much. I mean, other than like going out west to mountains. I mean, we don't have majestic mountains.
No. Other than in the heat. I mean, I will say when I want to retire, I want to be like somewhere like Jamaica,
a little bit warmer. Yeah, the winters here they're very gray. They're very gray. It'd be nice to have more sun.
Yeah, I have that SADS.
Yes,
I think all of us do.
Maybe that's why cannabis is so popular in
Maybe.
Michigan.
Hey, we're onto something.
I know. Yeah.
So your journey, into law led you into cannabis, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely from the social justice end, and then you can't run a dispensary, especially when it was only medical, and not be moved by what you see, the transformation that you see. I mean, the people that we saw come into bloom in, wheelchairs that months later are walking, or, it was just amazing. Some days be crying because you just can't believe what you're seeing. It was just an amazing journey. I feel blessed to, especially at that age at that stage, it was, a second act, to be in your 40s when it started. Now I'm in my 50s, it's a blessing, and especially to be working for yourself, and a lot of people, when you see that opportunity, you just, even if you're scared, you just kind of have to take it, right?
Well, we don't know until we know.
But you have to try.
Exactly.
And that's
exactly.
the thing. I think when you see something that's that compelling and interesting, and even if it is scary, you just have to take that leap. Mm-hmm. But it's been amazing. Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah. That's incredible.
Well, I mean, the community made it so easy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's an amazing community here in Michigan. I can only imagine. I can imagine in other states it doesn't unfold like this because it goes straight to legalization.
Yes.
There isn't.
Yes.
We had the MMMA that started in 2008. Mm-hmm. So you had in Michigan a 10-year, community foundation.
Yes.
Before it ever turned into a business.
Right.
Really. Right. I mean, of course, there was transactions happening, but so it's what happened in Michigan is not being duplicated everywhere.
No, and it's interesting you say that too, because Bella, we had a caregiver. I could not get her medicine in a dispensary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She was on 3 different tinctures. 3 different tinctures, and then she had a rescue medicine, and then I used a suppository. I replaced all of her pharmaceuticals, even her seizure medicines, with just medical marijuana.
Wow. And those were such common stories,
right?
Back then,
right?
Yeah. Still, but
yeah,
that's all. Now it's just different.
It is different.
The focus is so much more on recreational.
Yeah, and then that's kind of sad for me.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's the patients are the ones who really don't understand what's really out there and what a caregiver really is. And yes, you can go to dispensary, and it's great to go into those. To try the different medicines, because again, that's the only way you're going to know what you like and what works with you. So how is that? So you've opened up in Ann Arbor.
Yes.
And where else are you located?
So we have a store now in Sturgis, and we're opening up in Ypsilanti on Thursday.
Oh, I know. That's exciting.
It's coming up.
This week.
Yeah. We opened one in Burton, and that one, so one of the funniest things about this industry has been, how quickly it all sort of exploded.
Yes.
It was and how it sort of had this haphazard sort of scattershot approach to a lot of forming of business partnerships and relationships. And in that, we've opened 5 stores, but, some of the partnerships have sort of shifted, and, talking to, I won't mention anybody, but we all know people who, started out somewhere and, either shifted or closed or ended up somewhere else.
That's kind of the nature of the beast.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is the 5th store we're opening, but this will be the 3rd one that'll still be open.
Yay!
So that's great.
Yeah. Well, and that's that's what you got to do sometimes. Yeah. It's where the market is.
Yes. Absolutely.
and trial and error. Yeah. And you're still succeeding.
Yeah. Well, we're still working our tails off. I'll say that much. Yeah. But that's great. We were so fortunate, especially Governor Whitmer, to keep us open during COVID.
I know. For us to be deemed essential
was such a godsend.
Yes.
Whatever higher power you've got in your life, to be engaged in work during that time and not just be sitting at home wondering what's going on. That was so fortunate for us. and to still be, employing people and giving people a reason to get out of bed and go somewhere every
Exactly.
day. Like I would have gone nuts like that, that would have been crazy. But so this is the third one, and shout out to Michael Camorn.
Hi, Michael.
Watching. So the Ipsy store where Canna Jam is coming up.
Yes, I'm so excited for Canna Jam.
Yeah, at
October 8th.
Riverside Park. So Bloom will be there, and our edibles manufacturing, Treetown Cannabis, will be giving away a lot of Sugar Bush and Treetown edibles there.
Nice.
At
Treetown
Canna
is
Jam.
one of my favorites.
Oh, great. Oh, speaking of which,
yes.
So Treetown is formulating, I don't know if it's going to be an all the time product or just a seasonal product, but we've got a s'mores brownie.
Ooh.
And now that CRA has raised the edible limit from 100 to 200 for adult use. So we've got 100 milligram and 200 milligram s'mores brownies here for you to taste test and give us your feedback.
Will give you feedback.
Please, and bring them back to MICIA, whoever wants. Or you can eat them all yourself.
I will.
Whatever you want to do.
I will eat them all myself. I'm the only one who can handle this many milligrams.
Yes. So, so we're looking for some Treetown. Maybe if you, I don't even know what the best way, maybe LinkedIn. Treetown has a LinkedIn page. So if you want to be like what would you call that? An edible sampler. Taste tester, beta tester.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, in software, it's a beta tester.
Yeah, I don't
So you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, reach out to Treetown. We can hook you up with some samples.
I'll be reaching out to Treetown.
Yeah, all you have to do is give us your, because they're always doing that. And I'm like, okay, well, I work all the time. So I'm like, I'll try a bite and spit it out. And that's not really, it doesn't give you the full.
You're tasting it.
Yes. I'm tasting it, but that's it.
Right.
I can't get the whole effect. I don't have time for a 100 milligram. Plus, there's no way I could eat a 100 milligram brownie. That's
so, okay.
Yeah. I like the sleep gummy, like the 5 milligram THC. I think it's got like 5 milligrams of CBN or something like that. That's perfect.
I'll have to try yours.
Right before bed.
So do you know like what the milligrams are in a syringe of RSO off the top of your head? And if not, it's okay. Because I have to do a milligram of RSO to go to sleep at night.
Oh, wow.
And so
milligrams. So is that like
I go through a RSO, like a syringe in like a week.
Oh yeah. So what about a tincture?
I haven't found anything that helps.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I literally have to like knock myself
out. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like RSO would do it though.
I need to get some more. Oh, we'll go back next door after.
It's interesting because it sounds like I was talking to so my business partner, who's a mechanical engineer who does all of the manufacturing, I was talking to him yesterday about distillate, and really everything is moving towards more like live resin because there's so much biomass.
Yes.
And it's like distillate, like who wants distillate anymore? It's like as cheap as,
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's like
we want they're giving it away.
Yeah.
So now everything is like full spectrum, live rosin. I mean, it's just amazing how
it's the shift.
Everything is shifting.
Yeah.
And people come every now and then and ask me like, well, what would your advice be? And what would your advice be? I'm like, my crystal ball broke like 5 years ago.
Right.
Like, I can't, don't take on too much debt. That is my only advice. Like, don't overpay for anything and don't take on a lot of debt.
Right.
I don't know. Unless you've got a bottomless pit of money.
The market, it's really going to separate the players.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a wild ride.
So Treetown. So what made you want to, your partners, develop Treetown?
Mm-hmm. Well, we started off just kind of out of necessity. Going back to Dory, she wanted to create edibles that, she knew what was in them, because there was a lot of edibles. Well, I mean, there were no regulations back when we started doing this.
Right.
So you could put anything in an edible and you didn't have to
call it good.
Call it whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's just like,
here you go.
Exactly. So, so we were working out of her kitchen, and Patrick has a 20-year manufacturing, history at Ford, and he's just a manufacturing guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
and he's another partner?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So when it came time to actually move this operation into, an actual facility and out of the kitchen, we set it up as, a manufacturing facility with actual processes and equipment and, things like that. So it just seemed like a natural offshoot.
Absolutely.
He's not a retail guy. If anybody knows engineers, they're engineers,
right.
And it's
they have a special talent.
They are best put in engineering roles,
yes.
And why try to put a square peg into a round hole,
exactly.
Right? So, he is perfect in that arena. I would not be good in that role. I don't know the things he knows about that kind of stuff. So it works out really, really well. So it was kind of born out of, just a natural progression.
Right.
And, it was great because, it was a necessity when adult use started, even when medical first started, because very few people have licenses.
Yes.
So, if you kind of needed your own supply for a little while. And, now you don't. But
now they're in abundance
now there's
supply.
there's like a million suppliers. There's too many suppliers. But that's all right.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
So for you, how is cannabis now with your family? Because now you're the only one in Michigan,
mm-hmm.
and you're one of five
girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because all of my sisters still sort of have this weird, I think they all approve. Well, I want to say they all do edibles. They all do the low dose edibles, but they all still have this weird hesitation about it. There's still that, and I'm sure a lot of people kind of know what I'm getting at. It's they're okay with it, but they're not sure they want everyone else to know they're okay with it. There's still that slow adoption.
Yes, because we do, it concerns us what other people think about us.
Yes, that's what it is.
That's a fear.
Now that they know that I'm okay with it, they're like, hey, when you come visit, can you bring me some vape cartrages and some gummies?
Right.
But then, my one sister, and I know her friends aren't watching this, and at least I'm assuming. I won't, maybe I won't go there. But I know that she doesn't want her friends to know that,
right.
Or at least I know that there are still limits to how much they want their friends to know that.
And it's really sad.
Or their children.
Yeah,
for sure.
That there's
children.
Still stigma,
Yeah.
that we can't talk about it,
yes.
and it's really sad.
Yeah, because I think 100%. I don't have children myself, but if I had a child, I would rather them be, have a problem with cannabis than a problem with alcohol.
Right.
Because a problem with alcohol is going to have so much more damage on their bodies and their health than a problem with cannabis. And alcohol is scientifically proven, alcohol is more addictive than cannabis. So if you have to break a child of, a dependency on one versus the other, it is going to be harder to get them off of alcohol. And alcohol is more readily available.
It's in every household.
Yeah, and don't even get me started on the whole, every time you go into a municipality, oh, there's cannabis, kids are gonna get it. It's what about alcohol?
I know.
Geez,
yes.
Everywhere.
Yes.
You
want to really talk about the elephant in the room.
I know, exactly. Alcohol is the gateway drug to, teenage pregnancy.
Exactly. Well, yes, because you lose your inhibitions.
Yeah.
With pot, you don't. With marijuana, you don't.
No.
With alcohol, yes, you lose your inhibitions. It makes you do things you forget.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
No.
Yeah.
So, I just think it's going to take time. Mm-hmm. I don't judge people for, not immediately abandoning their stereotypical thoughts about cannabis. I get it. It took me a little bit of time too, and I was immersed in it. I forget, it's almost like living in Ann Arbor. Sometimes I think the world is much more progressive place, or that Michigan is a little more progressive than it is.
Ann Arbor is its own
little
city.
bubble. But when you're in the cannabis industry, you're like, come on, don't you guys get it? But not everybody, gets it like we get it. So,
well, and we all learn at different times.
Yes.
We all get the information at different times
Yes.
in our lives, and and it's just being patient and waiting for the others
Yeah.
to catch up. Yeah.
Well, and a friend of mine is a chemistry professor at EMU, and she's working on writing curriculum right now for EMU for a chemistry extraction course. And she was talking to Andrew Brisboe a few months ago about the research license. And EMU is really looking at getting involved in that. And I think as more, mainstream higher education institutions get involved. I mean, I don't think they're going to call it a cannabis extraction course, because then they, Pell Grants
Exactly.
and ROTC students can't participate. But they can call it botanical extraction, because it's used in every industry.
Exactly.
It's not unique to cannabis. But certainly that's, it can prep people to go work at a processing facility, and it can prep people to go work at, a testing lab. So they're looking at those things now. And when those steps start happening, EMU has a fermentation sciences course.
Oh, wow.
That they implemented about 6 years ago maybe, because of the rise in the craft brewery industry in Michigan.
Interesting.
And it also does, sauerkraut and things like that, like foods.
Yeah, right.
But a lot of it was driven by the craft beer industry. So, it's just, as those things happen, I think it will just become, de rigueur. And then people will be like, oh, it's just like anything else.
Be a common, I don't want to say common name, but like a common thought.
Yeah, like cannabis is just another way to wind down on the weekend, or it's another form of holistic medicine. I have my Western doctor, and I also go to a place here in town in Ann Arbor called Bioenergy Medical Center, which focuses more on naturopathic stuff. I go to both. Because, I want Western medicine for certain things,
there is a place and time
and things like that. And then I want a holistic approach to other things. And, that's just the way I balance it in my life. And I don't, I think everybody has to make their own choices, and cannabis can certainly be a part of that. The endocannabinoid system is amazing, but there's so much about it that we still don't know.
Right.
And everybody's, I don't know. There's so much more to know.
There's a ton to know. And unfortunately, if we don't take the time to educate ourselves, we are the ones that have to, get online and research and read the studies and say, okay, this really makes sense and this one doesn't, because there are studies out there that don't make sense.
No.
And you really have to read through them with a fine-tooth comb sometimes and understand okay, logically, no. And when it was printed, what year it was done.
Oh yeah.
Because information is constantly, being updated and changing all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, we're so quick to judge.
Yes.
And it's like, hold on a second, people. Yeah. Evolution.
That's what got us into this mess. It's judgmental,
Yes.
like believing really what got us into this was somebody with some authority and some letters after their name said something, and everyone just was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's demonize cannabis, and then they completely took down a whole society.
Oh,
it's disgusting.
It is.
What's been done with it.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
But so for you, are you living your passions right now? Your what are some of your goals and dreams? Now that, because you've accomplished quite a bit throughout your life.
Well, it's interesting because, I've always been somebody who worked hard. I've always been working a lot. I mean, working a lot and working hard are two different things. I get that. So I've always worked a lot. I think what I'd like to do is work less,
yes,
but still be really engaged in something that, I'm really passionate about. Being in the cannabis industry is nothing but problem solving. And I do like problem solving. Because there's always, retail is nothing but problem solving. I mean, because you're working with people all the time.
Right.
Cannabis aside, just working with people is fun.
It is fun.
So that's a lot of problem solving, but it is really interesting to try to sort of mentor other people. Like, I feel like I got once I realized that it's okay to ask for help, I mean, that is something.
That's huge.
Like, now I'm at that age that I used to look at other people in their 50s when they're like, oh, now I don't care what people think of me, or now I don't, now it is a thing, and I was like, that's never going to happen to me, no. But now that I'm in my 50s, I'm like, it's true. There is something that when you've been working and, you've seen a lot,
yes.
You do have a different perspective on things. And what I try to impart to a lot of our employees, or, just in daily life, is that, there's not one thing that will define you for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
That everybody makes mistakes. That I expect people to make mistakes. It's what you do with them. It's like, do you own up to them when they happen, when you can actually fix them?
Right.
Or do you try to hide them and sweep them under the rug? So, like, for me right now, the part of my job I like the most, even though it sounds counterintuitive, is still the problem fixing and the solving. The part that is, sort of gut wrenching about that is some people just don't want to get it.
Right.
And you can't help that. I mean, you just can't.
No, my favorite saying, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't.
No, you can't. I mean, and it's like, it's cliche,
yeah,
but it's true.
It's true.
It is so
it's
true. And with perspective, looking back, I can think of some bosses I've had in my life where I was like, oh my God, now I know what they were trying to tell me.
Right.
And, I almost want to, reach out to them and say, hey, by the way, remember like 20 years ago when you said this to me? Now I know what you mean.
Right.
But, so that's, and that's going to be like in any industry, right? I mean, the point of life is not to work yourself into that, into a grave.
Yes, exactly.
But making a difference, like however you can. And, I had one of those large MSO guys, like who already cashed out, like already got, it was one of the MSOs, what was it called? I can't remember now. It was one of the MSOs that's already been gobbled up by one of the bigger MSOs. I think Curaleaf bought them.
Okay.
And he was like, it's great to do good and also do good. And, it was poor grammar, but he meant do good like money-wise, but also do good for people, for humanity.
Yes.
And I always like that thought. It's great to find, a business where, I don't have children, but like I feel like now I get to mentor and sort of be a part of, sort of educating or helping younger people
Absolutely.
sort of, find their groove.
Yeah.
Or at least learn a thing or two. Like bosses make a difference in your life, just like parents make a difference in your life. Just like teachers make a difference in your life. Yeah. And, we've all had good and bad teachers. We've all had good and bad bosses. Like some people might think I'm a bad boss because I'm tough, but I also, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. Right.
Like it doesn't help you to think that everything is okay in life,
I agree with you. I'm more of a realist.
Yeah, a realist. There's all that, there's, are you an optimist or are you a pessimist? It's like, I'm a realist with hope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a realist with hope.
It's like, I always like to talk to new employees about like CRA makes it sort of easy for us when it comes to theft. Like, first of all, I know people steal. People come into desperate situations.
Right.
And I tell them flat out, like, I know that statistically speaking, I'm not accusing anybody of it, but statistically speaking, somebody in this room will steal something from us at some point in time, whether it's out of desperation or just because they think they're entitled to, whatever.
Right.
Because they want it and they don't have the money that day and they just think it's easy, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if we catch you, CRA requires us to report it to the state police, to them, to the local police. Like, we have no option. Like,
Right.
I mean, however you interpret
you're
that rule,
you're a legal business.
that it's a legal business.
Yes.
That's the way the rule is written. So it does kind of help to frighten them a little bit, but it's true.
Yeah.
And that's scary knowing that, because a lot of people, like I hate to categorize a generation, because I don't want to be that, old man sitting on his porch get off my lawn.
I know.
But like, I think there is this generation tends to not understand consequences as much as I think maybe previous generations understood consequences.
Right.
So
with every action, there is a reaction.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes consequences are hard.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they're harder than others.
Right. Well, and there's always a consequence, whether it be good or bad.
Yeah.
There's always a consequence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the challenging part, the fun. I mean, it's fun to see somebody grow.
Mm-hmm.
It is like one of our employees has been with us since she was 17. Now,
exciting.
Remember 17, there were no rules back then.
We weren't regulated.
In 2015, you could be 17. And now she's like 24 or 25. And that's amazing to see somebody grow, with a company like that. So, it's great. And other times you're just really disappointed.
Right.
But
again, that's life. Yeah. Yeah. That's the turnover rate. That's the employment.
Yeah. Every time the one nice thing about cannabis is even though we're competitors, it's very collegial. I talk to some people at Quality Roots every now and then, just to name one. Mm-hmm. And, we all have the same complaints about turnover and quality, applicants that, really understand like what it means to be on time. Like 5 minutes later.
It's really interesting because it's always like people kind of think like, cannabis is like a big party. And I'm like, you gotta work.
Yeah, like where's the big couch? Like where's the big beanbag chair?
No. After work maybe.
Yeah. Not on property.
No, and not when you're punched
against
in.
the rules.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, the mentality sometimes, and
people do have, a lot of employees do think that, just the other day we were hiring like the last batch for Ypsilanti, and they were like, well, how much free cannabis will I get a week?
What?
Yeah, in the interview.
Wow.
I was like, isn't that something you might want to ask like coworkers maybe after you've got, like, being a Gen Xer,
oh my goodness.
I was always like, this is all the stuff we used to say, like behind your boss's back.
Yeah.
In the quiet, in the shadows.
Yeah, because if it's not a now, it's like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, just said it right out loud in the interview. And I was like, wow, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Like, like when you get to the part, like, do you have any questions for us?
Right.
Like, how much free cannabis do I get?
And that was the question.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, well,
honest.
He was.
Note to anybody else.
Not a good question.
Not a good question.
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't think so. So what's next for you?
Well, literally after this, I'm getting in a car and driving to Chicago and going to the Benzinga cannabis business meeting. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It's close by. Usually it's where a lot of the MSO people get together and sort of talk about who's taking over who or who's buying who. Nancy Whiteman of Wana Gummies is going to be there. She's really a fascinating person. I just kind of wanted to hear what she was going to talk about. She's talking about actually how single brands that aren't attached to multi-state operators are sort of expanding, because Wana obviously is not attached to a retail front. And but she was one of the original ones, that first mover advantage, but she's obviously in every state that's legal, yeah. So that'll be interesting, and just to see what's going on. So that'll be fun. And then down the road, I think just continuing to open up retail in places that make sense. There's too many lawsuits. Like, I mean, Ypsilanti, we've been working on Ypsi for like 4 years. And that's because we had a location that we knew was a good location that they would approve. But like, there's just and we still got sued. The suit was over in a blink of an eye. But unless you know somebody or like have the perfect licensable location, it just doesn't make any sense like to spend the money to just know you're going to get sued anymore. Wow. And so retail in Michigan has become a very risky endeavor if you're not like a large MSO that just has seemingly unlimited
That's a
funds.
shame.
It is kind of sad.
Yeah, it's stifling the little mom and pop shops.
It is. And that's but that's the good thing. If you're a mom and pop shop that is invested in your community and you are there helping your, community write the regulations and they sort of like write it to fit you in, then I think that's, the way it should be in that respect. So, hopefully that still is going to happen. And then, hopefully maybe Treetown and Sugarbush, we can, expand into maybe Ohio or some other states like Missouri, and just kind of get into some other states. I mean, without a retail presence. But, the one thing that I've just always been amazed at is how, you never know what the secondary effects of, banking. Everybody has an idea, like if safe banking passes, what is that going to mean to smaller operators like us?
Right.
Somebody who's only in one state versus, multi-state operators. Like, you just don't know.
You're
really
right.
Don't know.
Yeah.
And
talk about whole new frontier.
All I hear about now is like there's a couple manufacturers that are names that we all know that are cutting back on shifts, that cut their second and third shift, people that have shut down that were here, that I'm just like shocked that are gone. And, so you just never know. Like that's why people that ask me now, I'm just like, don't take on a lot of debt or any, if you can help it. And, just kind of operate lean and, just be careful on what projects you take on because you just don't know, and legalization at a federal level or safe banking, you don't know what effect it's really going to have until it happens.
Exactly.
And you just have to be nimble and
take it as it comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's problem solving. Sounds like a fun challenge.
Now, do you still help businesses get with their licensing?
I've helped a few like friends of friends.
Okay.
So like,
so you're stepping away.
Yeah, I've helped. I had a couple like people that needed licenses like in a pinch because I like a lot of companies and a lot of attorneys have like I had a few pre-qualification entities sort of like on the shelf waiting to go. And, just friends in the industry that needed to get licensing like really quickly.
Okay.
So, I've helped out people in a pinch and then people that call me that, like, hey, this municipality opted in and I need to turn in, like this just happened, 9 months ago or something. Like I need a license turned in by Friday.
Oh,
goodness. And it's like Wednesday.
Crunch time, yes.
Like, okay, I've got an entity and we'll get it done, but like, so in that respect, but there's just so much work to do just for Bloom and Treetown, and the one thing that CRA does is keeps accountants and attorneys employed.
Yes, keeps them
and busy. It's another subset of work for people to do. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I suppose. But it's very expensive. It is not cheap to run a cannabis business. There's a lot of expenses that other people. Everybody on this listening to this, I'm sure, is aware of 280E. So I don't even need to go into the.
Well, but not everyone knows that though. Those who aren't in cannabis, don't know what 280E is and they think it's simple to open up a business and don't understand, think that money's flowing and it's like, hold up.
Yeah.
Let's educate you a little bit.
Yeah. 280E, just doesn't allow you for those. The short explanation is it doesn't allow you to deduct ordinary and necessary business expenses. So that is anything that isn't cost of goods sold. So that is, the easiest way to explain it is rent, any advertising, most of your employees that aren't doing, inventory activities. It's a lot. And your tax burden is like 25-35% more than a normal business. Wow. And it's just totally unfair. It just doesn't make any sense.
No,
so,
it's not fair.
And it's not, the profit margins on dispensaries are, not what they should be. People, you can talk to some accountants, like everybody's favorite, Paul Samways, that will tell you, like you can't make a profit with with a retail store, and you can, but you can't unless you're doing, I think the break even point is at least 2.5 million.
Okay.
And you can certainly make a profit in a mom and pop store, with $1 million or $1.5 million in sales easily. If you're selling hot dogs, for example, it's just like you can't in cannabis because of the licensing fees and the audits that you go through, like the AFS audit. And God forbid you screw up anything, because you're going to be fined, and it's going to not be a cheap fine. It's going to be $5,000 minimum.
Right.
And that's not even for like really screwing up. That's for like some sort of very easy to do ministerial type of mistake. So it's not cheap, and you can't deduct the kinds
The
of
normal
things that
business
normal people would deduct. So and I mean, it's usually when I estimate tax payments, I take all of our expenses, and other than the cost of the goods sold, if there's $100,000 of ordinary necessary business expenses, I only take deductions for about 25% of those.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to pay tax on the rest of it, and it's, but that's not income, but you're paying tax on it.
Right.
So it's just not fair.
It's not fair.
Not fair at all.
No.
They need to fix that.
Yeah,
I'm sure if they take that away, they'll replace it with an excise tax, but that's okay.
Right.
At least then you know what it is.
Right.
And I will say this, Michigan has a very reasonable excise tax.
Mm-hmm.
10% is extremely low compared to what's in the rest of the country. So, they're doing a lot of things right.
Yes.
They are.
Yeah.
It could be way worse.
Yes. Yes, we could.
Yeah. And you can complain about anything. Like I said before, everybody makes mistakes.
Right.
Nobody's perfect.
Right.
I think Michigan does a good job at trying to make a very, even playing field for people. It doesn't seem like they make decisions that are weighted heavily towards big business or not.
Right.
There seems to be even-handed logic to their decision making.
Yeah, which is refreshing.
Yeah.
For Michigan.
Yes.
Well, we're at our hour mark.
Oh wow,
yeah,
that flew by.
I know, isn't it fun?
Yeah, that's great.
Well, thank
Thanks
you
so
so
much.
much. Yeah, I had a lot of fun just sitting here,
Great.
getting to know you more.
Yeah,
smoking a joint.
Same.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, mine went out.
Well, I wish you the best of luck and
Thank you.
your continued success, and hopefully I'll see you at CannaCon.
Oh yeah.
Or not CannaCon, I'm sorry, Canna Jam.
Yes.
Yes, October 8th.
That's less than a month away.
Less than a month away.
Yes. Yeah.
Hopefully y'all join us out there too.
Thanks.
Join us, me next week on Light a Joint with Ida. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. My little cursor over here.